Hi, friends. Welcome to the Mobile Bev Pros podcast, a podcast dedicated to providing mobile bar and event professionals with the information they need to succeed. I'm your host, business coach, and founder of the Mobile Bar Academy, Sarah Murphy. In each episode, the Mobile Bev Pros team will bring you industry experts, information, anecdotes, and opinions with the goal of assisting you in building a profitable, sustainable, and successful business that supports you in creating wealth. I'm excited to share with you today's episode, so let's get started. Hello, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have a very exciting episode for you. We are talking about Crowned, Sarah's life's work rolled up into one beautiful premium program. And specifically, we're going to be talking about why it's not for you, because this program is certainly not for everyone. It was not designed to be for everyone. In fact, it is the opposite of that. It is for a select few who are willing to go the extra mile in order to see results. I saw this beautiful TikTok the other day. This guy said that people are going to accuse you of doing the most, and sometimes it's going to feel like you're doing so much. And then he said, but don't you want the most? Don't you want so much? If you want to live a very vanilla life, then you can be out here just being plain Jane, doing the bare minimum, barely scraping by, and you're not built for that. You were always built to do the most so that you could create the most. And that is what the pivot to premium is all about. It's about putting in the extra effort, the extra time, the extra investment, the extra resources, gaining the extra knowledge so that you can stand toe to toe with some of the best brands in the world. So you can partner powerfully with people who light you up, with brands who light you up that you're excited to work with. And that you're not going to get by just going with the flow, rolling through the motions. Somebody said the other day that only a dead fish goes with the flow. And I really liked that.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. As we were talking, it brought up the thing that Corbin said when we were on a call with him not too long ago about potentially doing an in-person live event. And he mentioned that he would like to teach people how to be partners with the best brands in the world. And that's exactly what the premium space is all about. It's about being able to go toe to toe and being reliable, trusted partners of excellence with brands, but also buyers. And specifically, Crowned talks about wooing the premium buyer. It's also the culmination of my 25 years in the hospitality industry. Obviously, I worked in luxury. I spent a vast majority of my career working in hotels like the Willard Intercontinental, working in the luxury space. I lived in the Hamptons for about a decade, obviously working with luxury brands and luxury buyers there. So I pour all of my past experience on how best to support the premium buyer and my decade now of coaching and educating. And so all of that goes into what you like to call your great work, like your magnum opus. And this feels like that for me. It started off as a book, which is still pending. That process takes longer than I thought it would, but all in due time, right? And that book really is the skeleton for what I flesh out in more detail in only a way that a program can. I can give kind of the high level in a book, and then I give all the tools, resources, and support in the Crown program. And the whole purpose of this program is to help people master the premium market. And as an example, I have a client, a one-on-one client, who was asking how to be a better storyteller. And I suggested the book Story Brand by Donald Miller, I believe is who wrote it, because I felt like that was a really good introduction to storytelling. So he reads the book and then he comes back and he says, a lot of the advice that you're giving me regarding this process is contrary to what Donald Miller is suggesting regarding this. To which I have to share, that book is made for storytelling and tactics for the mass market. And so it's going to cheapen your experience if you do that, because that's what we expect from a mass market brand. And he's a luxury brand. And so when I went out and looked around, like there was stuff for luxury and there was stuff for mass market, and there just really wasn't anything that tackled that premium space. But we hear about people wanting to be in that premium space every day, all the time. I literally had a Q&A question come in yesterday about how do I elevate and create a more premium experience with my bar services in a unique way. And like, that's so hard for me just to say because I don't know anything about that person's business. And so when I wrote the book, I was like, okay, if I was walking somebody through this from the very beginning, what does it mean to be premium? And like, you can be a premium brand or you can have a premium offer. You don't have to be a premium brand to have a premium offer. So I want to clarify there. Like if you already have a brand and it's pretty solidified and established and you love it and you don't really want to change it, but you do want to tap into the premium market, you can do that with a premium offer. But that premium offer is going to be structured. You're going to support it differently. It's going to have an entirely different vibe than the main brand, which is okay. The transition from being mass market, both in mindset and in tactics and communication and the language that you use and the colors and like the visuals, all of that stuff is slightly different. And so the book really kind of walks people through because if someone was to ask me, well, what can I do to elevate my brand or my bar service experience? I could tell you something. So for example, on the Q&A call yesterday, I have a gentleman who listens to the podcast, so shout out, that is starting a mobile bar in the Seattle area. And he is of the Indian culture himself. And so he's going to create a mobile bar that specializes in Indian inspired cocktails. And like that is such a niche that is one, brilliant, and two, is much needed in most cities because Indian weddings are extravagant, elaborate events. They're multi-day, they're multifaceted, and oftentimes Indian wedding planners will not even tap you to do those events unless you have an understanding and an appreciation of the culture, if you've done an Indian wedding before. And if you haven't, you're immediately off the list on being able to support them. And so he has a real unique opportunity. And so for him, elevating the bar experience is going to look much different than someone who is in potentially Chicago that specializes in corporate events, right? So it's going to look very different. And that's what I think people oftentimes we miss the mark on premium is that it is so specific to you, your brand, what you're trying to achieve, your values, your vision. And so we do all of that work, but there's no blanket or generalized suggestion that I can give somebody that is essentially like, oh, well, if you want to be a premium mobile bar, serve these cocktails, use these colors, use this verbiage. There just isn't. And so the book will talk about the theory and the concept. And then the program, the generalized information is free. So anybody who's like, I need this, just sign up. The information is free. You will get all the lessons. They're pre-recorded. Obviously, they don't launch until July 7th. That's important for people to know. So you can sign up and you can get access to the portal. And then when it goes live, you'll get access to all that information. And it will drip according to the schedule. And then there'll be an elevated level of support wherein you get support with implementation and feedback on the workbooks. You'll get the full workbooks. And I think that's really clutch. Like chances are you don't need more information. And that's why I made the actual course videos free because the information is out there somewhere on the internet already. What I've done is I've curated it through the lens of my own personal expertise and experience in the service industry and taken away all the things that I think are nonsense and just really boiled it down to like, these are the powerful pieces that you really need to know. Information is out there. I'm providing that part for free. If you want the support, the tools, the feedback, all of that, the Q&As, all of that is part of a paid program. So I'm hoping we have a really healthy attendance, whether it's free or otherwise, because this is the stuff that we've been asked for 7 or 8 years. How does my mobile bar stand apart from the rest? How does my mobile bar capture those high dollar clients? How does my mobile bar become the premium option for people in my local area that are the high quality, they trust my expertise, they don't question my pricing? How do I do that? How do I stop playing the price wars? How do I stop worrying about whether or not I'm priced too high to be competitive or too low to be competitive. Because there is also that subset where it's like people may not even consider you because you're too cheap. And so they assume that you're bad at what you do. Right. So there is that like price concern that people have on both ends. Am I too cheap or am I too expensive? And like we completely eradicate all of those concerns because with the premium market, it's never about price. It's all about value. It's all about experience. And how do you communicate that? How do you communicate transformation? How do you prioritize talking to those that have this deep seated desire to have your mobile bar as a part of their experience? You're not selling them as much as they are selling themselves on what it is that you do and can do for their event. And so we've been asked for 8, 9 years now. People have been, trying to crack that code. And I've done it. And I've used the same methodology with my clients. And so now it's just kind of all bundled up, packaged into one nice methodology.
And Sarah, I think it's important to discuss at least the energetics of investment because you've made it all free. Historically, we have plenty of podcasts where you have said, stood 10 toes down on people don't value free shit. And there's a reason why we say that. And it's because, to your point earlier, especially in a world of internet, now we have AI, like information is not in short supply. Information is everywhere. And you could ask ChatGPT, how do I transform my mobile bar into a premium mobile bar? And now potentially ChatGPT is not going to be helpful here because the book hasn't been written yet and it doesn't live anywhere in the world. To your point, there's a huge gap in people supporting people in the premium market, and it is vastly underserved. We know for a fact in the mobile bar space, but it's seems to be vastly underserved in general. Where it is served, it's not usually successful because people associate price with premium. And yes, we're going to help you do that work, like you said. But you can't just raise your prices and be like, I'm premium. Because then, no, like you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. It's same as luxury. People associate luxury with price, when in fact, most luxury brands have very slim profit margins, and some of them even run in the red to create their master work in the world. So, like being in luxury, being in premium is not about your pricing. We want you to have solidified pricing. We're going to help you do that work. But that's not the key to, you can't just increase your prices. So when it comes to investing in your success, this is like threshold magic. This is this first opportunity that you have to claim that you are a premium experience for people. And here's why. If your rebuttal to investing in your business is, I can't afford it, ask yourself, because the world is a mirror, how often you get people in your inbox saying, I can't afford it. When you become someone who invests, you attract people who value investing. They see the value in putting cash where they don't want to have to do the stress and the time and the energy to do it themselves. I had a master sales mentor teach me about the rebuttal, I can't afford it, being total and utter bullshit. Because yes, you can. Yes, you can afford it. Are you willing? That's a different thing. And so now, moving forward, whenever you are compelled to say, I can't afford something, instead, just practice saying, I'm not willing to afford that, and see how that changes in your body. Because we could all like make a few sacrifices and ultimately afford the thing. Are we willing to? Energetic exchange is about recognizing that you are going to get in what you put out. We have seen people invest in their success and create miracles in 3 months, able to leave their 9 to 5s, create 100K in just 3 months. We've actually seen that one many times. Like you have this angle that you take where people just boom, they can create 100K in 3 months. And they're able to create incredible results in a very short amount of time. And what's the difference between them and someone who pays us 12 grand and has no results whatsoever? Because we've seen that too. The difference is they show up. We've had people pay 12 grand to work with you, Sarah, and never show up to a single fucking meeting.
I know
We
it's
have no
wild.
idea what their results are because we haven't even heard from them. We still don't even know what they're doing with their business because they're too busy, they're at work. And so some people, price is not the issue, time is the issue. Showing up for themselves, trusting themselves to put in the work is the issue. And so, like, we get the question, how long will it take me to see results? That's up to you. We've seen people create results incredibly fast, like insanely fast. will you put in the work that they put in? Because they came in and they did the most because they wanted the most.
Yeah. Also, like for people who are like, oh my God, is this going to be like a crazy? No, this is not a crazy expensive program. Like if you book one premium event from this program, it pays for itself. That's generally where I like to try and price things is how fast will you get the return on your investment? The Academy now is like $99. We dropped it. The economy is being weird. Events are down. And like we have the tools for how to stand out against the saturated market. And so we wanted to make that more approachable and more achievable. The accelerator program, it's under $500 a month. Again, like you book one event a month and it pays for itself. And the same with this program. It's a 3-month program. So we're not looking to like draw it out over 6, 12 months. Obviously, you're going to still utilize the information that you learn, the tactics and the tools well beyond that 3 months, but you'll see results within that 3 months for the cost of one booked event. And like you're going to book way more premium events than just one, but the investment in this is high enough to make it a little uncomfortable, but not so high that it's not approachable or achievable for the vast majority of mobile bar owners out there who are serious about serving the premium market, because premium's a vibe. Like, you know, when you see it. And a great example of this is yesterday in the Facebook group, I posted the suggested book covers from my editor. Everybody who knows me knows that those were not my vibe. Very few people could give words to describe why they were not my vibe. And that's kind of what I was getting at. Like premium is a vibe and you know it when you see it, but it is super hard if you don't have context or if you don't have frame of reference to get there, right? And so within the Crowned program, I'm intentionally trying to position people so that they can see through the premium lens and that they can understand their brand and their ideal client from the premium lens so that it becomes obvious what fonts to use, what colors to use, what words to use, what customer service tone to use, how to respond to people that's on brand, how to create and craft a client experience so that every touch point is intentional in what you want people to know, believe, feel, and do, so that they can then move on and move through your customer experience all the way to the end and feel absolutely in an afterglow of that was absolutely amazing. Everybody needs to hire you. I am now your biggest fan, your biggest advocate. And your flywheel just goes from there. And it's not about being perfect, because even if you're a premium brand and you've nailed the customer journey and experience, there will inevitably be either people who had a different frame of reference for what you consider like an absolutely amazing event. There will be all sorts of personalities. There will be mistakes and accidents that happen. None of that compromises one's ability to be a premium brand. Matter of fact, we had someone in the Q&A yesterday who has done, I think she said she's on par to do 800 events this year. And she was actually part of our accelerator program a couple years back. Karina, shout out. And she had, for the very first time of all these events, an event where she had to leave because they were breaking half the rules in her contract. And so she left early, an hour and a half early. And the family started like bomb reviewing her Google reviews with 1-star reviews and just absolute crap. And so she was really obviously upset about that. And my response there is like, this is a gift because now you get to very publicly stand in your values and explain why what you did was in alignment with your values and your contract and that you have integrity. And now, how many times are you going to get that opportunity unless they read your contract? Now, every future client that reads your reviews when you respond is going to see that you stand 10 toes down on the health and safety of your host guests. And that's important to you and that you have integrity. It's very hard to demonstrate that in any other way. That's a premium approach and a premium response to an otherwise very challenging situation. But anyone who is a premium client who reads your very professional, very grounded, very in integrity response is going to come away from that and say, that's my kind of business. And if they look at that and they're like, oh, they left because people were stealing alcohol and doing shots and underage people were getting drunk, that like that's not on them. Then you didn't want it anyways. In the premium space, even opportunities of challenge become opportunities to rise. And I think that's overall like what I'm trying to get is that premium is a vibe. And it can't necessarily just be handed to you or prescribed. It has to be something that is embodied. And that is the purpose of this program, is to spend 3 months really integrating and embodying a premium presence so that you're not just kind of looking around on Pinterest or on TikTok or Instagram and saying, well, they seem to be doing all right. Let me just do what they're doing. Let me use their colors. Let me use their fonts, which we've seen before. Matter of fact, just like a couple of days ago, someone said their entire website was stolen by another company. Colors, fonts, like all of that. That's a race to the bottom. Just because they present that way doesn't mean they're going to embody that. And that's really important. It's something we do talk about within Crowned, is the consistency of experience. If you get one experience on the website and then a different experience when you're actually engaging with someone, that dissonance may not be consciously recognized, but it will definitely be unconsciously felt. And there will be an erosion of trust. And so let people steal your shit. Even if they get them in the door, the chances of them actually executing the way that you execute when you're truly embodying a premium presence, it's night and day. And people know it. Like, people have really good bullshit detectors, even if they don't know that they do. Like, we're pretty sensitive to that sort of thing.
There's that quote that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but people often don't get the full quote there. The full quote is imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, that mediocrity can pay to greatness. And there's a nuance there that's so pivotal. If somebody's stealing your stuff, all that means is that they're mediocre. You can just look at that, like in the South, we say, oh, bless it. Because they're just trying to be great and showing the world that they are not yet. Now, here's the other piece I want to talk about. You mentioned people being integritous. And like, hey, Karina, 800 events in a year is insane. Like, we have a podcast with her, guys. If you want to hear her origin story and like when she first started as like a baby mobile bar owner, it's part of the Six-Figure Success series here on the Mobile Bev Pros podcast. Talking about people being integritous, one of the things that we get with people who get into these programs and get into any programs, because you and I, we support people in a one-to-one capacity who struggle with this. Well, 1-to-2 capacity. And then, of course, our separate one-to-one clients also struggle with this, is being in integrity. And what does that mean? First of all, the word integrity means whole. But when you think about the integrity of a structure, it matters. Like the integrity of a foundation on a building absolutely matters. You wouldn't buy a sky rise that had a faulty foundation. That's a recipe for disaster. And in the same way, you in your business are the foundation. You create the integrity. And so if you are someone who does not regularly show up for themselves, if you're somebody who makes commitments and then doesn't finish the book, makes commitments and then doesn't do the workout, makes commitments and then doesn't drink 85 gallons of water a day. I don't know. What's the hip number of gallons of water we're supposed to be drinking a day today?
I think
You know,
it's ounces. I think you got to be looking at ounces, not
I was
gallons.
being dramatic. That was my boa. I put that one on purpose. But people, if you're committing to something and you are not seeing it through to fruition, this program is not for you. Unless unless this is the moment, because you can always choose to put that story down that you're somebody who can't be trusted. You can put that story down. If this program is the catalyst, is the thing that you're like, you know what? I am going to show up for myself. Nobody's coming to save me. Nobody's going to just miraculously pay me out of nowhere. I'm not going to be a millionaire overnight because the stars align. I have to put in the work and I'm willing to do what it takes. And I'm going to show up for myself and I'm going to show up for my business and I'm going to apply what I learned. And this is the year that everything changes for me. If you want a threshold moment of that caliber, get into Crowned and become somebody who is integritous. Become somebody who holds the line, who shows up for themselves and does the work that's required. This can be that moment. And if you're not showing up, the only person who's paying for that is you. And even if you enrolled in the free one and you're not showing up, know that that's an erosion of your integrity because you signed up for it. You said you were going to do it. And every time you don't do it, your impetus toward integrity, that subconscious cycle, is constantly pulling your attention back to like, oh, I didn't finish that thing. Oh, I said I was gonna mow the lawn and I didn't. Oh, I left the laundry in overnight. That one's me. I leave the laundry in overnight. Whoopsie daisy. We just bake soda and move on. But if you're somebody who is ready to commit to yourself, this can be the program for you. But know that if you don't do the work, you are not going to get the results. You can do the work like Karina and have 800 events this year. She did the work. She did the work. She created, I think she was one of our 100K in 3 months, if I remember correctly. Like, or it was close, 100K in like 6 months or something like that. Miraculous results. But Karina showed up for herself. She did the networking, she did the branding, she asked the questions. That's available to you too. You just have to be someone who is willing to show up for themselves.
That's a yes. You talked about the integrity of structure, and this program provides the structure. I know a lot of our clients, especially the like newer entrepreneurs or this is their first business, they kind of come from the corporate world where the structure is provided. Then they get into the entrepreneurial space where it's like that's on you to create the structure. And that transition can be really hard, especially if you're trying to like keep all the balls in the air and you're like, man, I know I need to be more organized. How many times do we hear that? I know I need to have more structure in my day because this is like a business and a business requires structure. A lot of people got into entrepreneurship because they're passionate, they're creative. Like structure is not their stronghold. But listen, I'm a Virgo. That's what I do. I create, I thrive in structure. And a lot of my clients are Virgo moons, which means you too love structure, even if it's not apparent in your everyday life. This program has the structure. Every single lesson in the paid container, it includes a pre lesson ritual. This is very important. The ritual gets you in the mind space, the head space, with the intentionality and the focus of exactly what it is you're going to be accomplishing within that lesson. It then also has a deliverable, which means when you finish this lesson, we don't just like, okay, that was fun and move on. This is not a TikTok scroll. You don't just inhale, inhale, inhale. You're going to focus, you're going to consume, and then you're going to create. You're going to actually utilize the information through the lens of your own brand. So whether we're talking about seed of power or golden string, whether we're talking about fascination or frustration, whatever it is that particular lesson is talking about, you're going to walk away with a tangible takeaway for your brand. So ultimately, you have focusing ritual, a lesson, a deliverable, and all of that will lead to a brand transformation with every single lesson. You will not come out of this program with the same brand as you went into it. And I don't just mean like colors and fonts, like those might stay the same. I mean how you show up in the world, the vibe that you give off, your presence in a room, the way you talk about your brand, the way you present your brand, the way you walk your brand, the way you sell your brand will not be the same at the end of this program. And that goes for even the free people. Like, listen, I didn't gatekeep my life's work. What weird. Why would I do that? I want everyone to have this, mainly because I want more premium brands in the world. Let's be honest. I have plenty of experiences with quote unquote premium brands who look the part. They do not walk the part. And that's not enough for me. When a lot of people say, well, this is a premium brand and they have the look, the vibe, and then you show up and you experience it and you're like, oh, that's so disappointing. It's actually more disappointing than when I go into Walmart and get a Walmart experience. Like I knew what I was getting into there. You know what I mean? Like the experience does not disappoint. It executes, right? So the brand that you walk into this program with will not be the brand that you walk away from this program with. And hopefully that's what you're after, because this is a transformational program. That means there will be a moment in time when there's a before you and an after you. I'm selling the transformation here because that's what a premium brand does. A premium brand literally sells a transformation. It sells the outcome. It provides the tools to get one from here to there. So that's what this program does. And real quick, I just want to kind of talk about Crowned. And everyone knows that one of my brand symbols is a crown. And I do that because I think it's the perfect metaphor. And I even used it yesterday in the Q&A. I put it on my head and I was like, okay, now from the seat of power, do that again, right? And the answer is always completely different if you're sitting in your seat of power. But also, it's an acronym, and that's why it's in all caps. So I just want to walk people through what the acronym stands for. C in Crown stands for claim your seat of power. Shocker. Because when you root the truth of who you are in your brand, everything becomes easier there. Like every decision, every time you're floundering, every time you're kind of like accidentally giving away your power card, when you root your brand in your seat of power, the energetic capacity is it just tenfold. And like we have to start there, because if we don't start rooted in our seat of power, then we're literally just flopping in the wind at the opinions of everyone else. The R in Crowned stands for reveal your golden string. And so, just a little context here, the golden string in this program is your ideal client's hidden soul level desire. Now, that seems like really hyperbolic, because what we do in this particular industry, though it's important to note that this particular program is for any and all industries, but the audience of this particular podcast are mobile bar owners largely. And so that's the lens that I'm using to talk about this program currently. It seems hyperbolic to be like your ideal client's soul level hidden desires to sell them a mobile bar. But there are only two forces in the world. And actually, this is the Deborah Harkness, the author of The Discovery of Witches. In the very beginning of the book, she talks about how as far as I can tell, there are only two forces in the world. It's fear and desire. And like, yes, that's going in the book, like very beginning of the book, because with premium, at least the way that I like to teach it, it's not that you can't use fear, but fear is the absence of desire, right? And so like you can play with both of those. And I just prefer to focus on desire. And when you're talking to someone's soul level desires in your marketing, it's like a golden string that tugs at their heart. And so your messaging literally pulls them forward so that they're attracted to you in like a subconscious way. They don't even know why. There's just something in you and about you that is so divinely attractive. They have to have it.
In the metaphysical, we call this the magnetic center. And when you develop your magnetic center, you pull to you not only the people that you want to serve, but the teachers that are here to show you the way. You and I had a riff, a conversation recently about my current mentor and why I'm so attracted to her. And what I realized, the golden thread here, was that every mentor I've ever had actually had these exact same qualities. And I didn't know this until I did my own ideal client work this year. It's always good to refresh your ideal client work. Even if you've been in business for a while and you're like, no, I know who I serve. You do. Let's refresh that information. Okay. Like do it again and you'll be like, holy shit. Right. For me, when I did my ideal client work this last week while you were in not Yosemite, I found out like I wrote down who she was. She was me. Shocker. As soon as I was like, she's me though, and I read it back to myself, I was like, oh my God, she's my mentor too. And she was the mentor before that, and the mentor before you knew it, I was like, oh my God, every mentor I've ever had loves tattoos, prefers her husband's shorts to actual real pants, and wants to be spiritually successful while also being authentic and comfortable in her own skin. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, I've always been this person. And so I love the golden thread work because it's so relevant in my own journey right now. And like, you guys, I'm telling you, the way that it lights you up from your soul, to your point, it sounds hyperbolic, but like, do the work and you'll be like, oh, I love my ideal client. I also think it's a portal for self-love. When you fall in love with your ideal client and your mentors, it's a portal for self-love. If you're here, it's because you're attracted to something that Sarah Murphy has. Sarah Murphy embodies something that is possible for you in a way that you want to walk that walk. And that's why you listen to all the podcast episodes. That's why you can't get enough. That's why you signed up for the academy. Whatever it is, it's because Sarah symbolizes something in you that you also want for yourself. And it's possible for you, or she wouldn't be in your field.
How many times have I said that your ideal client is the highest version of yourself? Right? You are your best client. And the way that I love talking about that is that like you spend 24/7 with you. If you didn't love you, even like on a subconscious, like it's easy for people to say, I really don't like myself. But you do. You spend every waking moment with yourself. You judge everybody based on your own likes and dislikes. You created a brand based on your own likes, dislikes, desires. Like you love yourself. Why wouldn't you want to work with more of yourself? Right. And like we talk all the time about how all of our clients are just like different aspects of ourselves and how beautiful that is because we get to work with all of our favorite things every day. So your golden thread is likely the same inner hidden desires that you have, which is why you created your brand so that you could address that inner hidden desire. And these inner hidden desires can look like they're seeking power, they're seeking wealth, they're seeking status, they're seeking belonging. And each one of these like actually has a different archetype. That's down the road a little bit, but and we get into archetypes in the program as well. But essentially the R in ground stands for reveal your golden thread. And we're going to do that within the program. The O in crowned stands for own your fascination factor. And fascination, like literally their entire empire is just built on this one concept. Sally Hogshead, she has the book like Fascinate, and she has like an entire self-assessment you can pay to do, and it'll tell you kind of one of your 46 or 49 archetypes as to how you fascinate in the world. I'm reading a book right now called Hidden Genius, and that is another kind of assessment based format to figure out kind of what you're innately good at. And anytime you like a quiz or whatever, people are just dying to know more about themselves and how they fascinate, how they show up in the world. You look at the Enneagram, you look at the human design, like all of these things have keys for people and how they fascinate. But I think people fail to realize like we should use that in business. And I don't talk about any of those things within the program. And obviously, I suggest additional resources if you're really struggling with the concept of fascination. But I do talk about like exactly what fascination is, what it does, why it's important, how we should lead with fascination, the function of fascination. And everybody subconsciously, I think, understands this. I was buying a bike rack for my husband for Father's Day, and the guy behind the counter was telling me that like this is his retirement job, but like, he had a full career in advertising, and his favorite tool to get attention, which think about that. If you're getting attention, you're fascinating. I like to call the fascination factor is what stops the scroll and stops the stroll. So it's basically that thing that makes you stop going in on autopilot, pausing, taking a look, or like watching the whole video or going in the store and experiencing what's being offered, right? So fascination is what gets people to stop doing what they were otherwise already doing or already thinking about to focus on you. Another person, did I even finish that sentence? He uses the color orange. I don't think I said that, but he uses the color orange or did use the color orange in his advertising tactics because it is a jarring, disruptive color. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to go out and use color orange because, as a matter of fact, it's very off brand for a number of approaches, right? And so that's not a magic bullet. Orange is not the thing that's like, that's it, check, just use the color orange and you fascinate, right? That's not how that works. But there are a number of different tactics, and they almost always are sensory. They almost always, when we're fascinating, either use sight, sound, smell. Think about when you go to the mall and you like have the Cinnabon, smell like pumped into the mall. And now all you can think about is a cinnamon roll. That is a fascination factor that they're utilizing. Touch, experiential, sensory fascination. When you go back and look at how things like very popular kids' TV shows are produced, they switch frames and perspectives and colors like every 3 seconds. That's a fascination factor. So, like, if you can get the brain to that eats that up, right? Because it's like, I can't look away because every 3 seconds there's something else. Even the scrolling on TikTok, like, that's all a fascination type factor. Now, we in this particular field, we can use social media. Obviously, that is one of the tools that we have to use for fascination, but it talks also about like when you're in person networking, fascination is a factor, right? So fascination, own your fascination factor. There are so many brands that do this so well. And I talk about this in the book, but one of them is Tiffany's. Did you know Tiffany's trademarked their color? Tiffany blue was trademarked because it was so unique and so synonymous with their brand. That's a fascination factor. You don't even need to know anything else about that brand when that blue box comes out or that blue bag is in the, like, you're there, right? Like that is a true fascination factor. And so we can create, and there's actually a relatively good book called Talk Triggers that touches on this a little bit. Listen, fascination is its own industry. So we could go on all day about that, but we are just high level going to try and own our fascination factor so that we can then move on to the other letters in this acronym. The next one is W, and that is weave in strategic frustration. Now, first of all, the fact that I got weave in here made my heart so happy because anyone who doesn't know, Dawn and I, once upon a time, had kicked off a little thing, a little project called the Weaver Society. There's still like 3 podcast episodes that are like floating around in the ethers that I don't even know how to take down, prior versions of us. But the Weaver Society existed for a hot minute. And I just really love the concept of weaving. And so weaving in strategic frustration is the W. Now, strategic frustration, just high level, what that looks like are boundaries. That's really what it is. And we put that right after fascination because we're going to fascinate all sorts of people. Not all people are our people, right? So even in this program, we're going to fascinate a number of people with the concept of crown, and then they're going to not be able to pass certain boundaries, whether it's the time commitment, whether it's the pricing, whether it's the meeting times, like whatever it looks like, they might be like self-selecting themselves out. And that's intentional. That's what we want because we can't be all things to all people. But we can be is the best option for a select few. But how did the select few know that you're the best option unless you have boundaries? So friction, which is another word that I use in replacement for frustration, becomes part of the overall brand strategy. It's how you stop showing up in low power ways and start sitting very comfortably and very powerfully in your seat of power so that people know when you're for them and when you're not. The next letter in Crown is N, which stands for nurture the buyer's journey. And inside the book, I talk about this as flirtation. Flirtation and nurturing the buyer's journey. So after they come into your lead funnel and you kind of set the boundaries and then they decide from there as to whether or not they want to proceed, now we're kind of dating. Are we a good fit? So this is where your follow-up game lives. This is where you're not chasing per se, but you are nurturing that relationship and that you're sharing more about each other. So like I don't know what an online dating app is. I mean, I know what it is, but I've never used one. But I can assume that in the DMs, that's when you get to know each other. What's your favorite color? Do you like long walks on the beach? Like, I don't know what it looks like in there, but that's what I'm assuming happens is that you're in that conversation. You're really trying to really decide, is this person someone that I'm willing to invest in? Or is this person a good fit for what I'm looking for or what I'm offering? Right. And so that's a nurturing buyer's journey. And we talk about this a lot in the academy already, where we talk about that post inquiry nurture sequence. It's oftentimes email, it can be text messages, it can be phone calls, it can be DMs in the social media, but it's like, where are you connecting and building intimacy with your potential client so that they learn and feel comfortable handing you large sums of cash in exchange for your services? And that should be a process of relationship building. It should be a process of nurturing, giving them the information that they need, asking the questions that you need in order to show up successfully. That's an important part that I think oftentimes gets overlooked, especially with newer businesses. And it's always worth going back and looking at that. Moving on to E, elevate your delivery. So after you've closed the deal, now we actually have to execute. So this is, we call this follow through within the 5S framework. And once you sell them and close them, now we actually have to execute to expectation. And this is so, so important because if someone hands you money, it's basically like, I trust you. And If what you do after that is you drop it, you ghost them, you don't follow expectations or set expectations appropriately, it leaves such a bitter taste in their mouth that it's almost impossible, as per research, to recover from that experience. If after someone pays you, you don't execute to expectation, you don't make them feel all the feels that they were expecting to feel, then it's almost impossible to come back from that. And so it's really important for us to look at the post payment execution of service delivery. And I'm talking about whether it's a mobile bar service, whether it's a product that you sell. What happens after someone gives you money? I'll give you an example. I bought something off of the interwebs and it took forever to get here. So I kept checking in with them and they're like, it's on the way, it's on the way, it's on the way. And then like 6 weeks later, it's not like the tracking is not showing that it's on the way. They have no idea where it is. And so I'm like, can you just refund me? And they're like, oh, sorry, no. And then I did a little thing on my credit card where I was like, I never got this product. And they gave me my money back. And then like a week later, I got the product. But like, what a crappy experience for me during that 6 weeks. You know what I mean? And so like I'm like, I'm never going to buy from them again, even though ultimately I got the product and I actually like the product. But like that experience, I'm not going to buy it from them again. If I want that product, I'll find someone else to buy it from. Right. And like, that's what we're talking about here. Like products, services, it's very important that actual delivery process to be in alignment with the expectation that you sold them. And then lastly, the D, crowned, is devotion by design. I used to call this adoration, and I still am calling it adoration, but you use the term fangirl, and that like completes the 5 Fs. So fangirl adoration is the step here. And what we're doing here is we're building your fan base. The people who have loved the experience so hard, they can't stop talking about it. They want to do it again. They tell everybody, writing reviews, your own little tribe of amplifiers. They're walking around with bullhorns, essentially telling everybody and raving about you, because you could talk positively about yourself through your marketing all day long, and it's not worth nearly as much as the people who've experienced working with you. And that's just, for whatever reason, the brain trusts people, even if they've never met those people, of their opinions more so than they will trust you. That's why we all read Amazon reviews, right? Like that's just a part of it.
The example I want to use here is a company I know absolutely nothing about, but that everybody listening probably knows something about because I can't help it. They're in my field, whether I like it or not, and that's Savannah Bananas. So Emily Diano started this. Hey, Em, we love you. Started this in my field, and it has never died. I took my daughter to the pool the other day. We're in this random small town in North Carolina, guys, like tiny town, okay? And I'm sitting by the pool, and this mom, I had just gotten off the call with Emily, and this mom was like, oh, we went to a Savannah Bananas game. And then this other mom was like, oh, we love Savannah Bananas. Was it wonderful? And then this other mom was like, oh my gosh, we saw them in Savannah. Where did you go? They went on and on about how incredible it was and how much they love going to Savannah Banana games and like all the silly different things that they do. And they had the kids throw the first pitch. And then, like, it doesn't even sound like a baseball game. Like they're talking about mascots and like performances and like the food. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they do baseball, but they clearly do baseball very different from how everybody else does baseball. And that's their whole pitch, if you will. See what I did there? And like Emily, she's read all of his books like 6 times, the guy that owns Savannah Banana, and he does this on purpose. He asks himself, what do I hate about baseball games? And then he built an entire business to change that. So it's family friendly. It's not super expensive. It's an all-inclusive price. You get all the food you want for like one. I love Savannah Bananas vicariously through the entire world, I guess. You know what I mean? They have raving fan base that like even just on a random Tuesday afternoon, you're going to hear about them. And when you hear about them, there's at least 3 more people in the vicinity who know and love Savannah Bananas. That's that fangirl adoration phase.
Not me and my husband having a whole conversation about Savannah Bananas this morning. Like,
Stop. Stop
right?
it. Oh,
Oh,
and
we
you know
did.
what? Earlier you said the Weaver thing. And like this last night or this morning, I got a notification from TikTok that this time, like 4 years ago, we posted the first TikTok of a conversation we had on the Weaver Society. And so it's funny how things like, these circles that we live in.
Wheels within wheels. And specifically, we were talking about that very thing where it's experience, the experience of a brand and how powerful that is. and how like you just can't pay for that marketing. You just can't. But that has to be intentional, right? It can't be forced, but it does need to be intentional. You have to set it up to happen. And so we talk about that within Crowned with the last D, devotion by design. And that's the last module within the Crowned program. And so I'm hopeful that this little overview, one, excites people, two, potentially shows or highlights some areas that within the premium market that may be a little weak and see opportunity, especially right now, because what we're seeing is a lot of established mobile bars. And let me be clear, this particular program is not likely for you if you are just starting out. If you don't really have an offer, if you don't really have a brand direction, this would be a lot harder to do in 12 weeks. But if you are established, in that you have a business, you have marketing and messaging, you have values, like we can tweak, we can build upon, we can clarify, and we can really root and make stronger those specific things. And so if you have all of those things already and you're listening to this, it's very possible that you see opportunity here for you to go and lean in harder in that area of your business. And the reason I say that is because what we're seeing right now is a lot of the more established mobile bars are like, why am I slowing down? Why are my bookings down? And like, not everybody is. And that's really key, I think, is that when you become ubiquitous with every other mobile bar out there, you lose that fascination factor. You then become easily replaceable. But when you become the only and best mobile bar known for Indian inspired cocktails, for example, and like you really go all in on that and you focus on creating an absolute premium experience, not just in your marketing, but in your delivery, in your post delivery, in your messaging, in your branding, you become untouchable no matter what the economy is doing. And that's what I would like for all of our community members to carve out that blue ocean. If you've read that book, which we did that for book club like 4 years ago, and I think I was the only one that finished it because people thought it was so boring. And it was. Like The Crown is definitely an improvement on the delivery of that concept of blue ocean. It was a very long, very boring book. But what it talks about is how do you create your own blue ocean where there's not sharks filling the water with blood? Like you own that space and like you're untouchable. That's what we're hoping to do with this program.
Another fabulous episode. I will drop the link to Crowned in the description. So if you're listening to this before July 7th, hop in. We would love to have you. This is going to be absolutely incredible. And we are going to transform not only your business, but we're going to help you wear your crown and become the crowned executive officer that you know you are meant to be in this lifetime. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with us, and we hope to see you on the next one.
And that wraps up today's episode. I hope it was valuable. I would love to hear from you what you thought. You can drop me a line at hello@mobilebevpros.com or find me on Instagram at mobilebevpros. If you're looking for more valuable mobile bar related content, we have a website full of it. You can find us at www.mobilebevpros.com. And I'd love to see you in our Facebook community, also by the name of, you guessed it, Mobile Bev Pros. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time, cheers.